All right. How are you guys? Having a good day? Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. We'll wait just a minute or two for others to arrive. All right. Anybody have anything they want to share? Anything fun happening? Alistair, are you raising your hand? I can't tell.
We're going to Scotland November. It's the beginning week of November, so we're going right
That's
after that.
very exciting. Have you been there before?
We go
Yeah.
there every year.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's very exciting. It's always fun to travel. Yep. I missed you guys last week because I was away. I was
Last
not
week was
around.
funny for
So I
me.
know a couple of, go ahead, Alistair, what?
You might last week was funny for me. You might have noticed, but I joined the meeting at 11:55 because I thought it was from 11 to 12.
Oh, okay.
So it was from 10 to 11. So I
Oh,
joined at
yeah.
11:55, and I saw that the meeting was already started.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of like, okay, I'll just wait in advance. And then he just accepted me right away. I was like, and I got in and I saw you all talking. Oh crap.
Yeah. That happens sometimes. It's really hard because we're all on different time zones. And so, you guys have to keep track of when I say it's at 1 o'clock Eastern time, you have to count back or forward or whatever. So that does make it a little bit challenging. All right. Anybody have any questions? Small class today. I wonder where everybody is. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Hopefully everybody doesn't think we don't have class today because we do. We do have class today. I don't have any more Monday classes that are as of today, nothing is scheduled. All right, so everybody can see that flapping bird there? Yes? Good. All right. So this week you start learning about birds. How cool is that? First lesson tomorrow will be about birds. So we're working our way up from the simplest, which were the sponges, all the way up through mammals. And they would be the most complex of all the animals. So as you're going through the bird lessons this week, I want you guys to be more aware of birds than you ever have been before. Stop and take a look at birds when you see them. Stand at your window and look for birds outside. Be aware of the birds that are around your home, ones that are normal around your home, because not all birds live in all areas of the country. So I have a couple jokes for you guys, cartoons rather, and then we're going to look at some of the ways that we can identify birds, like the things that we look for when we're trying to ID different birds. All right, so the mother says to the baby, well, hold it until we find a parked car. Yeah, seems like they do, doesn't it? When should you buy a bird? When it's cheap. Cheap, cheap, cheap. Why did the bird get a ticket? Because it broke the law of gravity. Aha. How about this one? A duck was about to cross the road when a chicken looked at him and said, don't do it, man. You will never hear the end of it. Right? Why did the chicken cross the road? Why did the chicken cross the playground? To get to the other slide. And how do chickens get strong? They exercise. And one more. Why couldn't the chicken find her egg? Because she mislaid it. Mislaid it. All right, that's it for today. All right, just a little heads up for you guys for the next couple of weeks here. Next week, we have a guest speaker. That's a picture of him right there. His name is Leon, and he is a crested gecko. So I was hoping that Leon could come visit us this week, right after studying about reptiles, but I wasn't able to make that work out. So we'll do birds, and then we'll jump backwards to talk about Leon, and then we'll jump forward. So that will be next week. And then the week after next, we're going to do a chicken foot dissection. So I sent you guys a message last week about this. If you didn't get it, please check your Canvas inbox. If you didn't get it to your email, that means you haven't verified your email address yet. So you need to make sure that you do that so that you're getting all of them. Alistair.
Would the gecko, would it have a live cam, or would it be just that we're studying him in the live class?
No, we're going to actually meet a little gecko.
Ooh, is
Yeah.
it like at a zoo or something?
No, it's a pet.
Oh, okay.
It's a pet of someone's. I'll introduce Leon and his owner next week. Yeah. Yeah. Somebody who'll tell us all about what it's like to have a gecko. Alistair.
Uh, I'm also gonna have to dissect a foot the day that we get into Scotland. So my
Oh.
sister's going to have to buy a chicken foot for us. And I think we'll mess with her by not saying why.
Well, keep this in mind. I always think it's better if you can do the activities, and you really will learn a lot about the way your own tendons work. The muscles in your arm are connected to tendons. You don't really have much muscle in your hand. There's very little. It's all tendons from the muscles in your arm that give you all the movements that you have. You'll learn a lot about that by dissecting a chicken foot. And it's actually pretty fun. So if you can do it, I think it's best. But I understand that not everybody is going to be able to find a chicken foot or buy one, or maybe your mom doesn't want it in the house, whatever. You don't have to have it. You can observe, but you'll learn more if you do them. All right. I'll remind you again next week about the chicken foot, and then I will send you the whole list of supplies as we get closer to the day that we're going to dissect it. Hannah.
Is there extra credit for dissecting the chicken foot?
I'm sorry, what?
Is there extra credit for dissecting the chicken foot?
No, there's no extra credit. It's just a good thing to do. Extra learning. How's that? Extra learning. All right. Now, we're going to take a look here at how people identify birds. And then we're going to do a case study. If there's time, we might do two. We'll see how far we get in this. So basically, we identify birds in two ways. First, we become familiar with the general shapes, the general colors, the behaviors, the movements of different birds. And we have to know what kind of birds are likely to be seen where we live at certain times of the year, because, you know, birds change location throughout the year too. And bird watchers often, from just a quick look at a bird, can identify a bunch of different species of birds. So when they do that, they're using 4 keys. They're using size and shape, color pattern, behavior, and habitat. So let's look at all 4 of those. Let's look at size and shape. First, the combination, the size and the shape together. That's one of the most powerful tools that we have to identify them. You might be drawn to watching birds because of their color or their behavior, but when it comes to identifying them, the first thing that we should look at are the size and the shape of them. First, we're going to look at what's called the silhouette of a bird. So the silhouette is like the outline, as if it was just blackened out like that. If we notice telltale parts of the bird, like its bill, what does its bill look like? What do the wings look like? What does the tail look like? That can tell you a lot about a bird. It can tell you about its posture. And we can rule out a lot of different birds, even if they're of identical size, because of the shape that they have like that. So here's some different silhouettes of birds. So that top one, that's a great blue heron. You would not confuse that with a robin just by looking at the silhouette. You wouldn't confuse it with a hummingbird. Just by looking at the silhouette, the blackened outline, you can tell a lot about it. This one is a western meadowlark. This is a sparrow. It's an American tree sparrow. And it's about the same size as a warbler, but they're kind of fatter, they're plumper, and their bills are short and thick and more powerful. This is a red-winged blackbird. Now, we can't see the color of the wings. That's where color comes in later. But just by the outline, look at how different all these birds are, just by their outlines. That's the barn sparrow, the blue jay, and the American robin. So a lot of you guys probably have robins in the area where you live. They live in most of the states, most of the continental states in the United States. All right, now let's look at the shape of a couple more here. This one is a house finch. Now, if we look at the color of it, that's what it looks like right there. This one is a northern cardinal, and there's the cardinal. This is called a rock dove. You might have heard it called its more common name, a pigeon. This one is a cattle egret, and that's what the cattle egret looks like. Now, size is a little trickier. So shape, you can kind of see that. Size, I don't know. I can't tell how tall you guys are, even though I'm looking at you. You might be a really tall person. You might be a really short person, or anywhere in between. And if I sit here, I look like I'm bigger than if I go way back here, right? So a lot depends on how far the bird is away. Sometimes we can compare it to things that are nearby. We can compare it to something that we know well. Like, for instance, if we know the size of a robin, we can say, oh, it's bigger than a robin, or it's smaller than a robin. When we see two birds together, that makes it even easier to tell the size. We can look at things like, how big is the head? How big is the beak? How wide is the wingspan? Those are things that we can tell just by looking at two of them that would be close together. Now, color is fun. I think color is one of the most fun things about birds because there's so many different colors. If we take in the overall pattern of light and dark, where is their color? Where is theirs not? Sometimes all we need is the coloration on a bird in order to identify it. Sometimes we see these quick glimpses, even if it just flashes by. If we see this bird flash by, we're going to be drawn to that red, and we're going to know it's not a rock dove because it doesn't have the red head. The rock dove doesn't have the red head. Now, sometimes those birds will hop back into view, and by their behavior, you'll be able to tell what kind of bird they are. So think about something like posture, how a bird presents itself. Look at the different postures in these pictures. Look at how these are leaning forward like they're ready to cause trouble. They're ready to do something. Where this one, he's just sitting there very majestically, waiting for something to go by. This one's on the hunt right here. Look at the claws, ready to grab that bird in midair. So when it moves, how does the bird move? Does it bounce along a branch like this? Does it flutter a little bit when it lands? What about its flight pattern? Does it flap its arms slowly or really fast? Does it soar through the air, or does it dart from one tree to another, or mostly spend its time walking on the ground? And how does it eat? Does it tend to catch insects in midair like this one, or does it tend to pick them up off the ground like this one? Does it sit still and crush seeds, or does it creep through, picking through leaves, looking for its dinner? How about other birds, others of its kind? Does it flock, or is it always alone? Remember, birds don't always flock. There's a lot of birds that are solitary and they don't flock with other birds. There are some birds that flock only at certain times of the year when they're migrating. So after they're done nesting and feeding their young, a lot of times birds will just go off on their own and they'll relax, spend some time until it's time to raise a family again. Some of them, those do spend time in large groups all the time. So that's, that's something to keep an eye on. And then the fourth thing is the habitat. You have to notice the habitat that you're in. So I live in Pennsylvania. So if I see a bird that looks like this one, I know it can't be. There are no Hawaiian stilts in Pennsylvania. You have to go to Hawaii to see them. And in Hawaii, they don't have robins, but I have a lot of robins in Pennsylvania. So you have to keep an eye on the habitat that you live in, as well as the time of year that it is, because I'm not going to see robins in the wintertime in Pennsylvania. I start seeing them in usually around March, sometimes February, but usually around March is when they start coming back. Hannah.
Do robins flock?
Yeah, they will go with other groups of them when it's time to fly south for warmer weather. Yeah, good question. All right. Now, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about birds of prey. So when you guys get to the lessons where you learn about the individual kind of birds, you may notice that I don't ask you to read the section about raptors. That's because I want to talk about them here today. Now, I put them down as an option. If you want, you can always read about them. I always think more information is better than less. But we're going to learn about raptors a little bit today, and then we're going to do a case study about a little baby eagle. All right, so what do I mean when I say birds of prey? What's that even mean? Hiba.
like the main predators for when it comes to birds, kind of?
Yeah, yeah, they would definitely be the main predators. Just take a look at this guy here. Talons here. We've got a sharp hooked beak. The word raptor is a Latin word that means to grab or to seize. So they're carnivores. They eat other animals and they use those really sharp talons that they have to catch prey as well as to defend themselves. So can you name any? Name a raptor.
Osprey.
Osprey is a kind of raptor. What else? All right, here's a list of them. We've got eagles, hawks, kites, falcons, vultures, owls, and more. Those are just some of the ones that we are most familiar with. So we're going to focus today on eagles and hawks, and specifically on eagles, because our little baby that we're going to learn about is an eagle. So eagles and hawks are both diurnal birds. What does that mean, diurnal? What does it mean to be diurnal? Alistair?
That they're during the day.
Yeah, they're awake and active during the day, and they sleep at night. Now they're going to hunt. Hawks and eagles both hunt and eat a lot of different kinds of animals, but we can tell them apart from each other, even though there's a lot of common features. If you see a bird flying overhead and you want to know if it's a hawk or an eagle, there are a couple things that you need to look for. Now, usually eagles are bigger and stronger than hawks are. Now, like I said, if it's way up in the air and you don't have two of them flying side by side, size is a little bit difficult to understand. But take a look at the belly of the hawk compared to the belly here of the eagle. Hawks usually have a light colored belly, where eagles are going to have a darker colored belly. And look at the beak difference there. Eagles usually have a yellowish or a lighter colored beak, where hawks tend to have a dark colored beak. Eagles will fly and hunt their prey right in the air, and they'll catch it in their claws, and then they'll fly to the nearest perch where they eat it. Hawks will a lot of times hide in the trees. They'll wait until potential prey appears. So once that prey is detected, hawks will rapidly attack. They'll use the element of surprise. So I have a tiny little dog, and I have trees all around me. I have to be careful when I take my little dog outside. Well, as long as she's with me, a hawk is not gonna come down and get her. But if I let her off on her own to wander, she would be wonderful prey for a hawk that's hiding in the trees, and I wouldn't know it was there until, with the element of surprise, it could pick her right up. Now, eagles a lot of times will eat fish. Hawks don't like fish. Don't know why. They won't consume fish. Hawks usually have a pretty sharp talons here. These are their long, like, think of them as toenails. They have a curved beak, and they have very muscular legs. Hawks are what's called opportunistic feeders. Anybody know what that means? What's it mean to be an opportunistic feeder? Muhammad?
Basically, they take any opportunity to eat.
Yes, and they will eat just about whatever they can. So yeah, they will eat basically anything that's there. Now, mostly they're going to prefer things like frogs and squirrels, but they might go for even larger animals if the opportunity presents itself. They might go for snakes and rabbits, even other birds. They usually live to be about 15 or 20 years old. This one right here is called a Harris hawk. And you guys probably already know that the bald eagle is the symbol of the United States. But do you know how we got it? How did we pick the bald eagle? So after they signed the Declaration of Independence, some of our founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, they were given the job of deciding on the new national seal. But their ideas kept being rejected. They kept coming up with things, and Congress would say no, 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 until finally the job was given to the Secretary of the Congress, Charles Thomson, after the war was over, after the Revolutionary War was over. Now, he ended up using the eagle. Now, his eagle was a small white one, but he borrowed the small white idea from somebody else, and then he changed that to the bald eagle. Now, there's a myth out there. You might have heard that Ben Franklin wanted it to be the turkey. There's no evidence that that's true, Some people say it, but there's not evidence that it's true. We do know, though, that Franklin didn't want the eagle. He called it a bird of bad moral character. He called it a rank coward, and he didn't think that that was a suitable animal to be the symbol of the new nation, because eagles steal prey from other birds, and he thought that that was bad character to be a thief. But eventually it was accepted in 1789 as the national symbol, and it has been our national symbol ever since. So Ben Franklin lost that argument. Now, except for some vultures, there are a couple of vultures that are bigger, but eagles are usually bigger than other birds of prey. The smallest one, the little eagle in the bottom corner there, that's about 18 inches long. That's about 1.5 feet, about that big. The Steller's eagle, the one that's on the top right there, that is about 40 inches tall, but it has a wingspan of between 6 and 8 feet. So look at the door in your room. Most doorways are about 6 feet. So if you turned it on its side, that's how big its wings would go. Imagine that, even more, between 6 and 8 feet. That is a big bird. And of course, like all birds of prey, eagles have really good eyesight. It's estimated their eyesight is about between 4 and 8 times better than ours is. Now, their eyes are about the same size ours are. Think about that. But they only weigh about 10 pounds. Their eyes take up almost half of their head. Look at your head, how much your eyes take up. Not so very much. Theirs takes up almost half. That would be like if we'd have eyes this big. It'd be kind of creepy, wouldn't it? Have eyes that giant. Now, their eyes are also angled a little bit away from the center of their face. And that gives them a much wider view. So you can look at them right here. Ours face straight forward. Theirs kind of face out this way a little bit. So they have this much, much wider field of vision than we do. They also can see 5 basic colors and all the combinations of those. We see 3 basic colors and their combinations. So that allows them to see markings and patterns on animals that are invisible to us, that we can't see. So they can get their prey more effectively. They also have a thing called a nictitating membrane. Anybody know what that is? A nictitating membrane on their eye. It's a clear inner membrane that they can close separate from their main eyelid. So here's a picture, a video that will show that. So what they do, they have their main eyelid here that they can close, but inside they have one that helps to moisten and clean their eyes. And what's interesting, they can even see with those shut because they can be closed to protect them without destroying their vision. So he can see right through that. See that nictitating membrane. Pretty interesting. Yeah, yeah. All right, now take a look here at what's called the maxilla and the mandible right there. So you have them too. You have a maxilla. Anybody know where your maxilla is? Yeah, your upper teeth, the bones that your upper teeth go into, goes all the way around to here. And what about your mandible? Where's your mandible? Yeah, your bottom. Your mandible is the only freely movable bone in your skull. All the rest of them are locked into place, but your mandible can move. Remember also, take a look at this supraorbital ridge. So supra means above, orbital has to do with the eyes. So it's the ridge above their eye. So keep in mind, remember that supraorbital ridge. You can use that to tell male and female apart. Male eagles have a different looking supraorbital ridge than the females do. But we've got it. It's right here, right above our eyeball. And of course, what's an eagle without its talons? Eagles have talons, and they don't have any feathers on their feet. So think about that. Think about what an eagle does, how it hunts. It a lot of times likes to eat fish. Mainly, it likes to eat fish. How might feathers be a problem for a bird who catches fish? Hiba.
Like when the bird is going down to catch the fish, if it's getting it out of the water, the feathers could get wet, and that could like cause the bird to get sick if they're too cold from the water.
Possibly, yeah. That's one possible reason. There's another thing that would happen to the feathers if they got wet. Muhammad.
It could increase the weight of the bird.
Yeah, could increase the weight, slowing them down. And you guys know what drag is? So it's the difference. Like try and imagine dragging something smooth through water as opposed to something rough and bumpy. That the thing that's rough and bumpy is going to drag. It's going to have more to slow it down, and that could be a problem too. Feathers that were on its feet and its legs might slow them down. Now, an eagle's foot has 4 toes on it. See, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, those toes, look at the way that they're positioned. So there's 3 that face forward and 1 that faces back like this. That is powerful enough to hang on to a pretty big fish as the eagle carries it through the air. And it has very strong muscles in its legs. Those muscles, when those muscles contract, they clamp the tendons in the lower leg and the toes. And that closes all those talons together. Often, that very first time that they grab their prey, it kills the animal. The animal dies as soon as it's grabbed because it pierces its heart and its other vital organs. Very, very strong talons. Look at that compared to a person's hand. Pretty crazy. All right, now eagles are what we call apex predators. Look at them at the top of the food chain there. They're carnivores. They tend to eat meat and fish. Primarily fish is what they like to eat. Now, osprey, this actually is a hawk. I wanted to show it to you because it shows how birds of prey catch fish, even when the fish fight back. Now, ospreys are a kind of a hawk. They're found on every continent except Antarctica. How's that cool? Now, the way it catches fish in the water is really spectacular. Watch this. But as you're watching, keep in mind, the video says that they have irreversibly locking talons, but that's not true. Some people will say that their talons are locked when they pick up their fish. That's not true. They could let go if they wanted to, but they're hungry, right? And it's worth the swim into the water and then the fight to get that fish out of the water so they don't let go. So let's take a look at this. Slow motion, of course.
After hitting the water and grabbing the fish, the game still isn't over for the osprey and its quarry. He needs to get airborne again. His talons are equipped with adhesive scales and long curved claws for an unbreakable hold. But a big trout can match him weight for weight, and the instinct of the fish is to swim down. There are tales of weak and hungry ospreys being dragged to the bottom, unable to release the fish or lift off from the water successfully.
It keeps taking a rest because that fish is fighting to pull down.
But osprey wings are adapted to give maximum lift from the water. And this male is young and strong. This is a struggle he's destined to win.
Pretty cool. All right. So bald eagle. Take a look at that. Does that look bald to you? Right? They're not bald. They just have white hair, or I'm sorry, white feathers. So the term bald is what we use to refer to that white fur. You guys know what a bald eagle sounds like when it cries, when it makes a sound? Anybody heard it before? Have you ever heard this on a TV show when they show an eagle?
Yeah.
What's interesting is that's not an eagle. This is the sound that an eagle actually makes. Kind of pitiful. It's not really very impressive. Yeah, so the other sound is made by a red-tailed hawk. Good question, James. Yeah, so Hollywood editors want something that sounds very impressive when they have an eagle. So they'll put the red-tailed hawk sound in there because it's got that piercing scream that sounds much more impressive than the little chirping that a bald eagle does. But like Ben Franklin said, they're thieves. So we picture this majestic bald eagle swooping over a lake and catching a fish in its powerful claws. But a lot of times what they do is they wait for another bird to catch a fish and then they steal it. So they've perfected the art of stealing fish from other birds like the osprey. They'll just keep chasing the other bird until it drops its prey and then they eat it. They also scavenge. They eat in dumpsters. They'll go through trash cans. They really like fish processing plants. So they will gorge on the fish that the plants aren't going to use, on the parts of them that they throw away. If they're really, really hungry, they'll eat things like crabs and amphibians and small mammals like rabbits, but they would prefer fish. That is their food of choice. Now, they usually soar with their wings almost flat. Other birds have their wings slightly raised up. So if you're looking up and you see a bird that's flying with its wings almost completely flat, it has this dark colored belly, it has the white head and the orange beak. That's most likely an eagle. Now you have to be in North America to find them. Bald eagles are only found in North America. They live across Canada and right here in the United States, and they're down a little bit into Mexico as well. Now, some of them migrate, but not all of them. They have migrating patterns, really depend on their age and whether there's food around. If they live in an area where there's food around all year long, like near a fish processing plant, they're not going to migrate. They'll stay where they are. When they do migrate, they usually start in the fall, and they will migrate when the lakes and the rivers begin to freeze. And then they return to their breeding grounds, usually somewhere between January and March. It's kind of interesting that bald eagles mate for life, and they're both good parents. They share the job. They take turns incubating or keeping the eggs warm. They both take turns feeding the babies, and they live for a really long time. It's not uncommon for bald eagles in the wild to live up to 30 years. So that's a long time for a bird to live. Now, right here, you can see this is a cartwheel display. So bald eagles mate for life, but they don't stay together all year long. They may migrate separately, but then when it's time to have another baby, they come back together. And when they haven't seen each other for a long time and they recognize one another, they perform this really amazing dance. This is called cartwheeling. They lock their talons and they spin through the air, almost like, when we hug in the airport, when we're real excited and we dance around. This is what they do when they see each other after they've been apart. There's no sound. They're grabbing their feet there and cartwheeling through the air. You can almost feel the joy, can't you? It's you. It's really you. I missed you. I think that would be awesome to see. Look at the size of the nest. They build giant nests and they work on it together. And that quality time helps them to make their bond stronger. So these bald eagle nests are made out of sticks, and then they're lined with grass and feathers to make them softer for the babies. If the nest was a good one, they'll come back to the same nest year after year. Every year, they add a foot or two more new material to the nest. And like I said, they both do a good job taking care of their eggs. They usually will have 2 eggs. Sometimes there's just 1, sometimes 3. Those eggs are a bright white color, and they have to incubate them or sit on them for about a month, somewhere between 34 and 36 days. And at least one parent stays with the young almost constantly for the first 2 weeks after they hatch. Both parents are going to bring food to the nest. They're going to tear it into small pieces and feed it to the babies. They could lay that fish right next to a baby eagle, and the baby eagle wouldn't know what to do with it. They have to tear it off and put the food into their mouths. They don't start flying until they're somewhere around 3 months old. Now, females are usually about 1/4 larger than the males. So you can sometimes tell the male and female apart by the size of them if you see them together. So this cool video here shows flight muscles. So I want you guys to watch the flight muscle video.
Hundreds of muscles, tendons, and ligaments power a diverse range of wing movements. The centerpieces of this system are the flight muscles. Pectoralis major, and beneath it, supracoracoideus. Together, they form the engines of avian flight. When the pectoral muscles contract, they pull the humerus bone in each wing down, creating thrust and lift. In immediate response, the supracoracoideus, connected by a tendon to the top of the humerus, works like a pulley to lift the wing every time the muscle contracts.
This is another terrific design because this pulley system eliminates the need for a large, heavy muscle above the shoulder to lift the wing back up. Instead, the flight muscles are all below the wings, where they help create a compact center of gravity that really stabilizes the bird's body in the air.
So the way our muscles work, we have our pectoralis muscle. That's our big chest muscle. And that works to pull our arms in. So when you're, back up a little bit here. So when you do this motion, it's the pectoralis muscles. But what pulls our arms back? Those are muscles on our back that pull our arms back that way. That's not true of a bird. A bird's muscles that pull its arm back are also in the front. But the way they're wrapped around that pulley system that he talked about means that they've got their weight all compacted in their chest area. Makes it a much more efficient system for flying. Now, the bald eagle used to be endangered. It was declared an endangered species back in 1967. In 2004, it was taken off the threatened species list. Now, that was because they recovered. We started doing some things to protect them, and they recovered. And you can see now that there are about 316,708 bald eagles as of 2019. Now, they were removed from that endangered species list because they recovered enough, but they're still protected. They're still under what's called the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. Now, it's actually illegal to own a bald eagle feather. So if you're walking through the woods and you find a bald eagle feather, you can't keep it. It's against the law. You can be fined for just having it. And of course, anything to do with a nest or an egg is protected too. All right. So all across North America, bald eagles make these giant nests in the springtime. And it's really cold a lot of times where they are. They deal with some really challenging weather conditions, but they have a lot of survival adaptations that help them to be able to continue to live in that area. Now, it's really cool the time that we live, thanks to webcams. We're able to get up close and personal views of some of these eagles. We can watch as the babies hatch. We can watch as they feed them. There's a couple of different eagle cams that I like to watch where you can watch them as they are caring for the eggs and then caring for the babies, and then the babies grow up. My favorite is the Decorah, Iowa Eagle Cam. It's located right near a trout hatchery. Think about that. What smart place to put your nest, isn't it? If you're a bald eagle, right near a trout hatchery. Now, if you look at this right here, look at mom. Look at mom's supraorbital ridge right there, her eyebrow, if you will. How much more it kind of comes down onto her eye, where dad's doesn't. Mom's head is a little bit bigger, and she's got these more pronounced brows. Now, they aren't nesting yet, Bald eagles in North America tend to nest somewhere through November through April. Then they're going to have their babies in March or April. So I took a couple pictures last year to show you what an eagle cam looks like. Keep in mind now that these bald eagles are apex predators. That means they're at the top of the food chain. Now, they're not in danger from predators, but their eggs are and their babies are. And they will fight fiercely to protect their eggs and their babies once they hatch. Now, until those eggs hatch, the parents take turns sitting on the eggs. Now, they turn the eggs over from time to time. Why do you think they do that? Why do you think they turn the eggs? Anybody have any guess? Deja.
So then each part of the egg can stay warm?
Yeah. Yeah, because if it was just the one side that they were sitting on, just the top would be warm. So they turn it to keep it warm. That's one reason. There's two. What's another reason? If they didn't turn it, the baby inside the egg might stick to the egg, and that would be damaging to the baby. So by turning it, they keep it from sticking to the inside. Now look at the size of that nest. That nest goes from way over here to way over here. Imagine building that out of sticks using just a beak and claws. Pretty good engineers, I think. This is what it looks like from the bottom, from below. Pretty huge. All right, now I want to show you guys a video of what goes on inside an egg. I couldn't find a video about an eagle or a hawk, but it's a similar process in all birds. So here's one that shows us the development in a chicken. A chicken takes about 24 days, where a bald eagle takes about 35, and hatching can take a whole day from the time they first start hatching. But you can see this, the development as it happens in this video. We're at day 5 now. Pretty cute. This is a picture right here. You can see the bald eagle first beginning to hatch right there. That's the very first egg. Now this shows the turning of the eggs. So now they often, when they're turning over the eggs, they will ball up their talons so those sharp claws don't, there we go, don't puncture the eggs. So once again, those talons are like bigger than your fingers, and they're so gentle with that sharp beak and those talons as they turn over those eggs. They'll turn them about every half an hour or so. They turn them over. All right, now here you can see the baby coming out of the shell. They're so cute. And here we have one that's growing up. It's about a week old there in that picture. And here they are a little bit bigger. They're starting to get their regular feathers, their flight feathers are coming in. The downy feathers are coming off. And here you can see that parents have to put the food into the baby's mouths. The baby just doesn't know to take a bite of food, even if it's laying right next to it. And here they are getting ready to fly. So this is what the Eagle Cam looks like. I've got one here. I'll drag it in and show you guys. This is what it looks like right now. They're not, like I said, they're here and they're around. The parents are there, but they're just really now beginning to build on the egg, or to build on the nest. All right, so let's do a little case study about our baby eagle here now. Harmon, a baby bald eagle. So just a couple of years ago, there was a situation in one of the Eagle Cam locations that really caught the attention of the world. 75 feet up in a tree in Minnesota, there were two young bald eagles who were raising their two eaglets. Now, one of the eaglets fell from the nest and died, and that was very sad. There was only one who people named Harmon who was left. Now, when Harmon was about 3 weeks old, he somehow got tangled up in the nest, and he struggled for almost 2 days to get free. So let's watch what happened.
Well, it's been an unbelievable moment in time here at Minnesota Bound. We are a little television production company in Minneapolis, and each spring we put a webcam way up in a tree on an eagle's nest, and we kind of watch life unfold up there. We've got a pile of viewers all over the United States who will watch for hours on end. This year, Mom and Dad gave birth to two baby eagles. Pretty amazing stuff to watch, but earlier this week, a terrible, terrible moment. One of the baby eagles, named Kirby, snuck up a little too close to the edge of the nest and actually fell out. He tumbled 75 feet and didn't survive the fall. People were pretty twisted up after watching that, you can imagine. Well, okay, we take a couple of days. Emotionally, we kind of get things in check, and then our email and our phone starts ringing. This is what happened. The surviving eaglet, his name is Harmon, there he is right there. People start calling us and saying, something's not right. It looks like he's tangled up in some string or maybe a piece of fishing line, maybe has a talon kind of stuck in a branch in the net, whatever, he's struggling. So we monitored overnight, and by this morning, Harmon was starting to get worse. His condition was really starting to drop.
Okay, what do you guys think should be done? What do you think they should do? Harmon, they watched him overnight. He's gotten worse. Hiba.
I guess they kind of have to leave the bird alone because they don't want to mess with, or they shouldn't. But then the poor eagle is struggling. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it? Mohammed.
And probably somehow help the eagle.
Okay, so your two ideas were exactly what people were arguing. There were some people who were saying, we've got to help the eagle. And others were saying, we can't mess with nature. We have to just let things happen the way they're supposed to happen. Can you see the pros and cons of both? What's the advantage? As Hiba said, the disadvantage of doing nothing is the poor eagle's going to keep struggling and probably die. What's the benefit of helping?
It's gonna be a stay alive.
Yeah, it might help, might stay alive. What's the downside of helping? Beth.
It's like messing with like the natural, I don't know, the
natural order of things. Yeah, and a lot of times when we mess with nature, it doesn't go well. Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's see what happened.
So we debated and made a tough decision. We decided to intervene and try a rescue.
So let's think of, they decided to run an experiment, right? We've talked about the parts of an experiment. Let's think of an if-then hypothesis for the experiment that they're going to run. If this is done, then this will happen. What's our if? Hiba.
If we help the eagle,
Okay, what's our then?
then it'll survive.
Very good. If we help Harmon, then he will survive. If we get him out of the nest and take care of him, if we help him in the nest, different ways. So what do you guys think they should do to try to help him? What would you suggest doing if you were there? Felicity.
Just untangle him and leave him there.
Just untangle him and leave him there. Anybody have any other thoughts? All right, let's see what happened.
Usually I have to climb it. It's a lot more work.
Pretty amazing what our cameras captured. After quick calls to the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources and the University of Minnesota's Raptor Center, we got an emergency permit to climb and go up into the eagle's nest. Now, climber Jim Musil volunteered to get up there and try and rescue Harmon. Now, while this whole thing went down, get this, more than 9,000 viewers online sat glued to their computers for about 2 hours as Jim made his way up into the tree. Turns out Harmon somehow got his talons tangled in a few branches. After pulling them free and doing a quick checkup, Jim decided Harmon might need treatment. So Harmon got a free ride in this yellow bag all the way down to the ground, and then another checkup before heading to the university's Raptor Center.
It's okay. You know, he's going to get that kind of world-class care. Get him some food and get him warm and clean and dry so that he can truly rest. Because in distress, you're never resting. You're in distress. And that's going to do worlds for him. The most important place for this kid by far is there.
So what he meant when he said the most important place is there was putting him back into the nest. So that's what they're working to do. Why? Why is putting him back in the nest the best place for him? Hannah.
So the parents can keep taking care of him?
Yep. Yeah. Anybody, any other thoughts? Hiba?
Like so that he can, he won't be dependent on like humans to help him when he's like, I guess.
Good. Muhammad.
Probably the safest place for him. If they just leave him in the wild, he's probably not gonna be able to fly. And so like the safest place for him is probably gonna be in the nest.
Okay, those are all good answers and all accurate. Yep. All right, now let's see.
Because if we don't get him there, you have issues of proper development. You have issues of possible imprinting. You have situations that young birds develop that are difficult to deal with in captivity. So the most important thing is return to the nest, return to mom and dad, because they know best.
Now, Harmon's story has become one of national interest. Heck, today we had more than 85,000 hits on the webcam. That's today alone. And of course, now we're getting piles of questions. The big one, will Harmon survive this ordeal? Also, will he go back in the nest? If so, when? And if he goes back, will mom and dad actually accept him back in the nest?
All right, let's watch and see. So Harmon did really well. He recovered well. He gained his strength back. So they decided to put him back into the nest late in the evening. Now they also put some fish heads and some fish tails in the nest with him to attract the parents and to give them something to feed him when they came back. Nobody knew if those two very young eagle parents were going to come back or not. Mom has only had one batch of eggs before, one brood, and dad hasn't had any. This was his first. Most of the time, parents, if they're going to return, they'll return within 2 days, but not always. So they put him in at night. Morning came, and little Harmon was still alone. All day long, throughout that whole long day, the world was watching, and the parents didn't come back. But they could see the parents in the area. They knew they hadn't left. Then, just after 7 o'clock that night, this is what happened. That's Dad. Dad landed on the nest, looking around. Look at Harmon calling him, Dad, feed me. Aren't you thinking, Dad, what are you waiting for? Feed the baby. Dad bites off a piece of fish. And he ate it. He breaks off another piece. Oh, yay! He fed Harmon. He fed Harmon. The Dad keeps feeding. Oh, and now Mom comes in. Mom takes the food right out of Dad's mouth. She says, give it to me, I'll do it. I'll feed my baby. Harmon's parents continued to feed him. He grew up, he fledged, and he ended up leaving the nest. All was well. It was a good story with a very happy ending. Now, real quick, I know we're out of time. This is a rule of thumb that wildlife conservationists follow. If human activity of an animal causes an animal to become injured or orphaned, we may intervene. If it's not, if it's something that happened naturally, then we don't. Now, this was not natural, and they decided to intervene anyway. So the question I was going to leave you with is, do you think they did the right thing or not? How many think they did the right thing? How many don't? Keep thinking about it. Yeah, most of you think it's the right thing. Yeah. All right, guys, I got to run. So I have another class. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.